Heartwarming transformation. Two incredible secrets exposed after a wealthy woman slaps her maid. In the pristine suburb of Maplewood, a garden party was in full swing. Lush green lawns stretched under the California sun, perfectly manicured as laughter wrapped around glasses clinking together like a symphony of affluence. Yet, in the middle of this opulent celebration, a single explosive moment shattered the polished facade of Sarah Graham, a 42-year-old businesswoman who seemed to have it all. With a swift motion, she slapped Maria, her devoted maid, across the face. Gasps echoed across the yard, voices hushed in disbelief. This wasn't just a slap, it sent shockwaves through their upscale community, igniting a scandal that would change everything. For Sarah, the slap was a culmination of her internal chaos. Neatly tucked in her designer dress and expensive heels, she could hardly fathom that beneath the shiny surface lay insecurities born of a childhood that revered perfection. Any sign of vulnerability had always been equated with weakness in her family. Now, at the peak of her success, the pressure felt unbearable. Maria, a single mother juggling two jobs to support her children, was merely at the wrong place during Sarah's breakdown. In the aftermath of the slap, whispers swirled like leaves in the wind. What kind of woman would dare hit her maid? The judgment, blunt and cold, echoed in the minds of Maplewood's elite. And there was Maria, humiliated in front of neighbors who sipped champagne and exchanged knowing glances. But Maria's heart burned with resilience. She had grown stronger through her struggles. Each arduous day had been a lesson. She was more than her title, and her worth transcended the scorn of the wealthy. As her children fell ill and bills piled up, Maria felt the crushing weight of despair. The very community that thrived on wealth began to show glimmers of support. It was a strange, beautiful dance of solidarity that caught her off guard. Sarah, burdened by regret, decided to organize a lavish charity gala, desperate to right her wrongs. "I'll help her," she thought, envisioning grand gestures that echoed through the charitable halls of society. But the gala backfired. The images of book-clad guests parading in riches only magnified Maria's plight. Instead of lifting her up, the extravagance underscored her struggles. In a moment of raw courage, Maria confronted Sarah. "This isn't charity, it's a spectacle of your guilt." The words rang out, slicing through the air like a hot knife. Sarah felt cornered. For the first time, she was confronted with the reality of her privilege and the misalignment with her intentions. In that moment, clarity washed over Sarah. Redemption couldn't come from throwing money at a problem. It needed to be grounded in respect and understanding. As she looked into Maria's eyes, she saw not just a maid but a woman who had weathered storms the likes of which she could hardly comprehend. Hope flickered between them, a fragile connection forged in the fire of their confrontation. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as the cracks began to mend, an unexpected turn loomed on the horizon, a storm threatening the fragile bond that had begun to knit them together. Would Sarah's newfound humility withstand the testing winds of judgment, or would Maria's resolute demand for dignity shatter the delicate threads of their unexpected connection? The question hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty, leaving the community teetering on the edge of transformation. Days after the gala, the air in Maplewood felt thick with tension. Sarah walked through her home, a once comforting space now cloaked in shame. Each room echoed her missteps. The designer furniture and polished surfaces symbols of her old life, a life built on appearances and societal approval. As she stared out the window, she noticed Maria tending to the flowers in the garden, a place that now felt like a battleground between them. Maria's back was turned, but her posture told a story, one of quiet strength. She hummed softly, a small distraction from the world around her. It was in these moments of solitude that she found her peace, the blooms standing tall as testaments to her resilience. Yet beneath that calm exterior, memories of the gala replayed in her mind. Confronting Sarah had been freeing, but left her feeling exposed. What would come next for her? Determination surged within Maria. She had heard the whispers, felt the weight of their gazes. Instead of wallowing in shame, she decided it was time to take charge of her narrative. With fierce resolve, she called a meeting at the local community center. "We need to talk," she said to the small group of women, fellow mothers, neighbors, and friends. "It's not about Sarah or her charity. It's about us, our lives. We can't wait for someone to fix our problems. We need to stand up for who we are and what we deserve." The energy shifted in the room. Maria's voice, steady and fierce, echoed their frustrations and fears. They nodded, leaned in closer, as she painted a vision: community support, shared resources, and mutual understanding. Each word sparked momentum, lighting a fire within hearts weary from struggle. Meanwhile, Sarah sat in silence, feeling increasingly alienated from the woman she had once viewed as just a maid. She had never considered herself an ally in Maria's battles, but now finding her own conscience wrestling with the truth left her restless. For the first time, she began to question her identity. Was she truly the person who merited respect, or had she just worn the mask of success for far too long? Later that week, Sarah approached Maria. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold, casting a soft glow on their fractured relationship. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice edged with uncertainty. Maria paused, searching Sarah's face for sincerity. "What do you want to say?" she replied, her tone a mix of caution and openness. "I want to understand what you want. This isn't about me fixing things anymore," Sarah admitted. "It's about us working together." Surprise flickered across Maria's features. Could Sarah's desire to connect be real? Could they forge a partnership built on something more respectful than guilt? "I never asked for your help," Maria replied, her voice steady. "But we could help each other if you're truly willing to listen." It was a moment of vulnerability and truth. Both women stood on the precipice of change, ready to dismantle their preconceived notions of one another. Just then, a sharp sound shattered the moment: a commotion from down the street. A group of neighbors gathered, laughter mixed with shouts of disbelief. Curiosity tugged at both women, pulling them from their delicate conversation. "What is going on?" Maria asked as they moved closer to the crowd. "Something's happening. It looks like a protest," someone whispered, their eyes wide with intrigue as they blended into the gathering throng. The mood shifted from confusion to excitement. Signs waved high, filled with demands for justice, equality, and support for the working class. Maria and Sarah exchanged glances, understanding dawning on them. This was bigger than either of them. What they didn't realize was that the true test of their newfound alliance was about to begin, and it could either strengthen their bond or tear them apart in ways they couldn't yet foresee. Would they rise to meet this unexpected challenge together, or would old habits and judgments come crashing back? The stakes had risen, leaving them both on the edge of a moment that would define them forever. The crowd surged forward, their voices rising like a tidal wave. Maria's heart raced as she and Sarah were swept into the chaos. The energy was electric, charged with a collective purpose that both thrilled and terrified her. "Look at them people standing together," Maria exclaimed, her eyes shining as she took it all in. The signs flashed messages of hope and labor rights. She could feel the weight of their demands, the urgency of their passion, and it sparked something in her: a fire, a determination. This was bigger than her previous struggles. This was a chance to find her voice and use it. Sarah watched the scene unfold, her hands trembling slightly at her sides. She had always lived in a cocoon of privilege, surrounded by control and calm. But now, watching the people's fierce dedication stirred a conflict within her. This protest wasn't just about the cause, it felt personal. These people were standing up for their rights, one that she had advantage over her entire life. "I need to help them," she whispered to Maria, unable to keep the thought to herself. "What do you mean?" Maria replied, her brow furrowed in disbelief. "You've never been on this side of things. You're not even a part of this." "I know," Sarah sighed, her voice strained. "But if I have the resources to make a change, shouldn't I use them?" It sounded like a noble sentiment, but Maria recognized the wavering confidence beneath her words. Maria turned to face Sarah fully, her resolve hardening. "It's not just about waving signs and feeling good. It's about digging into the grit of this fight. Are you really willing to lean into this inequities and all? Moments passed, her question hanging in the air like a challenge. The sounds of chanting surrounded them, the crowd moving like a living organism, alive with purpose. Sarah's eyes darted, searching the faces of the protesters. She felt a pull, something calling her. The thought of standing back, of staying silent, became unbearable. I think I need to, she finally confessed, more to herself than to Maria. I've spent too long pretending everything was fine while ignoring the reality of others. I don't want to do that anymore. A fire ignited in Maria, but it was tinged with caution. It won't be easy, you know. It may mean losing those so-called friends you've held onto for so long. I'm ready for that, Sarah replied, her voice steadier now. I'll find my own path, even if it's a hard one. Maria nodded, the weight of her own journey still heavy in her chest. Change meant vulnerability for both of them. Then let us figure it out together. An explosive cheer erupted from the crowd, and in that moment, their pact was forged. They stepped into the fold of protesters, side by side, two women from different worlds but united. Just as they joined the fray, a familiar figure emerged from the crowd, one of Sarah's former friends, her face twisted with disbelief and judgment. Sarah, what are you doing? She shouted over the din suddenly. Maria felt uncertainty creep in. This was the moment that would test their burgeoning alliance. Would they stand firm against disapproval? Or would that judgment pull them apart? The noise dipped for a heartbeat, an uncertain pause in the harmony of unity as all heads turned towards Sarah. Would she face the music or retreat back into the shadows of her past? The choice lay heavy in the air, and both women felt the weight of it pressing down on them. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as her former friend's incredulous expression seared into her memory. The sights and sounds surrounding her faded into a dull roar. Maria grasped her arm, grounding her in the present, but the judgment in the air could slice through steel. Sarah, don't let her intimidate you, Maria urged, her voice steady, yet the concern in her eyes was unmistakable. Is this really happening? The friend asked, her tone teetering between confusion and disbelief. You're here? With them? For Sarah, every question drilled deeper into her core. She felt the weight of privilege and comfort pressing down like an anchor. The woman before her represented everything she had been afraid to leave behind. But wasn't this moment the very reason she stepped out of her safe bubble? Yeah, I'm here, Sarah finally found her voice, amplifying it with unexpected strength. And I want to be here, actually. These people deserve a chance, just like anyone else. The friend scoffed, disbelief ricocheting through the crowd. You think you can just swoop in and help? You don't understand. This isn't your world. A ripple of gasps spread among the other protesters. Sarah squared her shoulders, feeling the fiery determination she had embraced moments ago reignite. And that's exactly why I want to be here. I can't just stand by anymore and pretend it's not happening. Some within the crowd nodded, appreciation glimmering in their eyes. For Sarah, her heart swelled. She wasn't just speaking to her friend. She was declaring her new path to everyone around her. Let us back her up. A voice from the crowd shouted, igniting an energy that washed over Sarah like a tide. People started to chant her words. We deserve justice. We deserve justice. Maria's smile spread wide as she felt the momentum shift. It was as if a door had swung open, a doorway to liberation, not only for Sarah, but for every person standing there, shoulder to shoulder, united. But just as the cheers swelled, doubt crept back into Sarah's mind. Why did she care so deeply? Was she genuinely committed to the cause? Or was there an element of guilt, a need for redemption guiding her choices? Seeing her falter, Maria squeezed her hand tighter, grounding her. You're not doing this for them, she whispered urgently. You're doing this for you. A sudden calm replaced the turbulence in Sarah's heart. The realization hit like a bolt of lightning. Not everything had to hinge on proving herself to anyone else. It was about discovering her own identity, her own voice in a world that often tried to silence it. But then the friend stepped closer, her tone sharp, cutting through the jubilant atmosphere. You'll regret this. You think you can play savior? They'll use you and toss you away when they're done. Sarah stared into her friend's eyes, the realization dawning that she was more than just a privileged girl playing at activism. She was forging her own identity, and it was terrifying yet thrilling to feel the surge of authenticity flow through her veins. Maybe I will, But at least I'll try, Sarah replied, her urgency palpable. As she turned away from the friend, she felt a powerful surge through the crowd. It was a mixture of joy and pain, hope and uncertainty. This was just the beginning. Changing the world wouldn't happen overnight. But in her heart, a new question began to rise. What would she do next? Would the world embrace her new mission or push her away? The crowd moved with a rhythm, and their chants created an echo that filled her with courage. Maybe this was more than just a protest. It was about finding a new family in these struggles. As they pressed forward, fists raised in solidarity, Sarah realized they were all fighting for something greater than themselves. But she also felt the flicker of fear lingering. What if she wasn't enough? And in that moment, standing between bravery and doubt, the words hung in the air like the impossible weight of her decision, like a shadow clinging to her side. What would it really mean to stand up for those whose voices had been silenced? With every step forward, she sensed the world expanding before her. But in the depths of her heart, she silently wondered, would she be strong enough to keep moving when the journey got tough? As the chants reverberated in her ears, a new energy surged through Sarah, propelling her forward. She had stepped into something much larger than herself, and the feeling was overwhelming. Maria fell into pace beside her, their arms still linked like lifelines amid the tumult. Surrounded by passionate shouts for justice, Sarah took in the faces around her. Each had their own struggles etched into their features, stories of resilience and hope. There was a woman holding a sign that read "Human rights aren't optional," tears streaming down her cheeks. A young man nearby waved a flag, his enthusiasm infectious, igniting a spark in Sarah. Suddenly, the weight of her past felt lighter, almost insignificant in comparison to the collective voice clamoring for change. She squeezed Maria's hand tighter, their solidarity fueling her resolve. "Do you think we can really make a difference?" Sarah shouted over the noise, half hopeful, half scared. "Absolutely." Maria's reply was instant and fervent. "This is what change looks like. We are the change." And just like that, Sarah felt it settle in a conviction that yes, they could make a difference, no matter how daunting the task seemed. But as the adrenaline surged, so did the clouds of doubt. Would she truly be able to contribute in a meaningful way? Would they accept her? Out of the corner of her eye, Sarah caught a glimpse of her friend again, standing apart from the group, arms crossed tightly. That sneer from moments ago haunted her, a reminder of the fears that still lingered. It was tempting to turn back, to escape back to the familiar confines of comfort. "You okay?" Maria asked, noticing her moment of hesitation. "Yeah, I think I just have a lot on my mind," Sarah replied, forcing a smile as she redirected her focus to the front lines ahead. As they marched, they reached a platform where speakers began to deliver passionate speeches. The air crackled with energy, stories pouring forth like a waterfall. Sarah strained to listen, absorbing every word. Each story unveiled a struggle, a heartbreaking truth, laid bare for everyone to witness. Then something unexpected happened. One speaker, a local activist, recounted the police brutality they had faced, but every word was punctuated by resilience. "We are not just victims, we are warriors," they shouted, and the crowd erupted in agreement, Sarah included. In that moment, she felt the barriers within her crack. She was no longer just a spectator. She was an ally, a partner in this fight. The pulse of the crowd synchronized with her heartbeat. She could feel it in her bones. They were all united in their mission. But just as fear began to give way to clarity, a sudden commotion broke out near the front. A small group of counter-protesters had cropped up, brandishing signs that denounced the gathering. Their energy felt hostile, a thunderstorm brewing amidst the sunlight of hope. "What do we do?" Sarah asked, panic coloring her voice. Maria focused on the sound of the chants. "We keep going. Their negativity can't overshadow our truth." But as Sarah glanced back to the disturbance, her heart raced. Uncertainty seethed within her. What if things turned violent? The fear of not knowing what was to come gripped her, squeezing tight. Would they remain steadfast in their mission, or would the tide shift? The moment was tense, the weight of the resistance pressing down like a storm cloud ready to burst in that charged atmosphere. Sarah faced a defining choice. Would she be brave enough to stand firm in the face of opposition, or would she let fear dictate her path? On the edge of this pivotal moment, She felt a familiar flicker of doubt rise, just as it had before. But then, staring into the eyes of those around her, something ignited within. She realized it wasn't just about her anymore. Taking a deep breath, she made up her mind to keep moving forward, to engage, to fight for what felt right inside. As the chants grew louder, shaking the ground beneath her, Sarah understood this was only the beginning. With every voice raised, they were echoing a profound truth far beyond themselves. And yet, amid the cacophony, one haunting question lingered. Was she prepared for the intensity of what lay ahead? Would her voice rise or falter when the real battle began? The tension in the air felt electric as the chants intensified, wrapping around Sarah like a thick blanket of determination. Maria's hand tightened around hers, a reminder of the strength they drew from each other. To confront the unknown, Sarah had to harness that connection, to remember that they were more than individuals. They were part of a movement, a sea of voices rising in unison against oppression. Ahead, the counter-protesters loomed, their defiance glaring against the sea of hope. Signs of hate clashed with symbols of love and justice, creating a heartbreaking collage that defined the polarization of their struggle. Sarah's breath quickened as she heard the taunts mixed with their chants. "Go home," rang through the air. It tore at her, uncertainty flickering in her mind like a distant flame, ready to be extinguished by ridicule or fear, but there was no turning back. She felt the resolve of those around her swell, an unspoken agreement that they would not give in. "We're not going anywhere," one voice shouted, and the crowd roared in response. That roar enveloped Sarah, and in it, she found an anchor. "Remember why we're here," Maria shouted, her eyes fierce and full of conviction. "We're fighting for our rights, for everyone who can't stand here with us." Suddenly, the activist from the platform stepped forward, commanding the audience's attention once again. "This is our home, and we have every right to be here." They raised their fist, igniting sparks of defiance and courage in Sarah's heart. Each word felt like a shield against the negativity, forming a barrier of strength. Sarah looked around, seeing faces light up with renewed vigor, teenagers jumping in rhythm with the chants, older adults nodding with pride. With every syllable, the speaker painted a vision of hope, urging them to stand, and stand they would, shoulder to shoulder. But just as the atmosphere began to shimmer with purpose, a bottle flew through the air, shattering dangerously close to the stage. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Panic surged. People pressed closer together, forming a shield. Sarah's heart thundered against her chest. "What was that?" she cried, adrenaline pumping through her veins. "Stay close," Maria shouted, urgency threading through her voice. "They want to intimidate us. We can't let them." The crowd swelled, holding tightly onto banners and each other, a living, breathing fortress of solidarity. Sarah closed her eyes momentarily, surrendering to the support all around her. In that space, she felt protected, emboldened by the shared courage that ignited the AIRDAS. The shouts of the counter-protesters clashed with the chants for justice. She remembered the woman with the sign. "Human rights aren't optional." Suddenly, everything became clear. This wasn't just a protest, it was a lifeline. With a new sense of purpose, Sarah found her voice. It pushed its way up from the depths of her being, a whisper amidst the chaos. Then, with a deep breath, she joined the chorus, her voice rising, louder than ever. "What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now." The words echoed back, bouncing off the walls of the buildings surrounding them, a sound that danced through the air, soaring above the negativity. With every shout, the fear began to dissipate, washed away by collective spirit. It painted the chaos in colors of resilience and hope. And then, amidst the cacophony, there was silence. A deafening pause that wrapped around them, while the world held its breath. Sarah's heart raced as she realized they were all waiting for the next move, for action to shift the battle in their favor. With a collective sigh, they sensed an opportunity hung in the air, pregnant with potential. As the tension rose high, the question remained. Would they seize this chance to confront their adversaries, or would they lose their momentum? The weight of the moment sat heavy, like a fragile balance between potential and risk, the ire of doubt lingering as shadows surrounded them. In that heartbeat of silence, Sarah felt the first hints of change stirring deep within. Her soul, Would she rise to meet it, or would she falter? The answer now hinged on the urgency of the moment. The silence was an unexpected ally, pulling everyone together while it held their breath. Sarah could feel eyes on her, seeking reassurance, searching for a spark of leadership. The weight was heavy, yet it brought with it a surge of determination. This was about more than just herself. It was about the collective, their shared mission, and the hope coursing through the crowd. "Let us march." A voice broke the stillness, bold and clear. It resonated with an energy that cut through the tension, igniting eager responses. The crowd swelled, transforming the quiet into a powerful roar as people began to move forward, step by step, united. With each footfall, Sarah's confidence grew. The rhythm of their strides matched the pounding of her heart. "We're here for you," she shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony. "We're here for everyone who can't be here." On her left, Maria mirrored her enthusiasm, shouting slogans that fueled the crowd's momentum. "One fight, one dream," she called out. "Together, we will succeed." As they surged ahead, Sarah stole glances at the faces surrounding her. Some were filled with fierce determination. Others had tears glistening in their eyes. Each face told a story, some of struggle, some of hope, but all conspiring to create a tapestry of resilience. But just as they made headway, a surge of counter-protesters moved, aiming to destabilize their charge. A wall of hostility loomed ahead, signs raised high, their hate palpable. "You're not welcome here," came the screams, laced with venom. Sarah's heart pounded, her instincts screaming to back down. But then Maria squeezed her hand tighter, grounding her. "This is our place. We are not afraid," she shouted, her voice ringing with strength. In that moment, Sarah's memory flickered back to her reason for being there, the promise of safety, equality, justice. That promise was worth every ounce of fear that clutched at her heart. Drawing a deep breath, she shouted with all her might, "We are here. We will not be silenced." The words ignited something deep within the sea of bodies surrounding her. The chants swelled around her like a rising tide, harmonizing into something spectacular, a defiant anthem that drowned out the hatred. Yet amid the passion, a voice broke through, shrill and mocking. "You think you can change anything?" It taunted, dripping with cynicism. Sarah's heart twisted at the challenge. But instead of feeling diminished, an ember of defiance ignited. With every step forward, she felt lighter, more powerful. "Yes, we can," she yelled back, and the crowd echoed her sentiment. As if collectively breathing life into the truth, they all knew this was a fight worth having. The front line was mere steps away now, a line drawn in the sand amid the chaos. Sarah could see the expressions on the faces of the counter-protesters. A mixture of surprise, anger, and perhaps even apprehension flickered there. This was more than just numbers. This was about hearts and minds. Change looming on the horizon. As they reached the front, the space crackled with energy, a feeling of invincibility rising. But then, her eyes caught the glint of something, a rock in the air, aimed straight for the heart of their movement. Time slowed, and she instinctively moved, pushing a friend out of the way, feeling the impact hit her shoulder. The crowd gasped as pain flared through her. The energy shifted instantly. Fear, anger, and chaos surged through the crowd. But in that split second of pain, something extraordinary aligned in Sarah. She locked eyes with Maria, who was already charging forward, rallying the crowd. Sarah's heart swelled. If they could channel this energy into something positive, if they could break through this moment of darkness, pain flickered, but resilience blazed brighter. And then it struck her, this was it. The moment of transformation awaited. Would they stand strong, or let fear dictate their next move? Sarah felt the answer swirling with the protest's persistent beat. All that remained was to decide to lean into the storm or let it sweep them away. A surge of adrenaline coursed through Sarah, sharper than the pain in her shoulder. The moment hung in the air like a charging storm, teetering on the edge of chaos. She could feel the weight of the crowd's collective heartbeat thrumming against her. They were here, right now, and they needed her to guide them through this turbulent moment. "Hold the line." Sarah's voice cut through the chaos, fierce and commanding. She stepped forward, resolutely placing herself between the crowd and the oncoming hostility. Every ounce of her training and spirit compelled her to shield those beside her. She could see Maria's fierce expression, her unwavering stance a beacon amidst the turmoil. Don't back down. We stand together. Maria's shout cascaded over the crowd, a relentless wave of defiance washing away fear. Sarah felt invigorated, buoyed by her friend's courage. The chant ignited anew, rising from soft whispers to thunderous echoes that filled their aching hearts. Stand together. Stand together. But the opposition remained relentless, a human barricade thrusting insults and aggression. Sarah's eyes darted, searching for any chance to redirect the energy. This isn't just about us, she yelled, the urgency of her message piercing through the noise. It's about our families, our friends, our future. A flicker of uncertainty crossed the counter-protesters' faces, and it fueled Sarah's resolve. She noticed the younger ones among them, hesitant to shout the cruel slogans, their faces a mix of confusion and conflict. Look at them, Sarah cried out, gesturing toward the younger faces. They're scared, just like us. But we can show them unity, not hate. Her heart raced, pumping her words forward as if they had magical wings, hoping they would land softly enough to take root. Watching the glance between those within opposing sides seemed to soften the tension. They were listening. In that moment of vulnerability, Sarah caught the glimmer of a connection that might just rewrite the narrative. But the loudest voices surged again, reigniting the anger, and Sarah knew she had to act quickly. Together, we can create change. Not just for us, but for everyone. It felt as if her voice echoed a truth that resonated deep within the crowd of counter-protesters. Love, not hate. We're building bridges, not walls. As if on cue, a ripple moved through the crowd. A woman from the opposing side began to lower her sign, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. Sarah's heart pounded. Was this a sign? The crowd shifted, some turning to look back at the counter-protesters. They extended hands, voices softened to kindness. We are all people, someone shouted, a plea to humanity amidst the fracture. Sarah's skin prickled with hope. Yes, we want to hear you, she called, feeling the beauty and power of their mission merging into something transcendent. You are part of this change too. Then, reality smashed back instantly. A shout erupted from the edge, they're brainwashing you, followed by shoves and chaos. Fear sparked anew. Sarah's heart raced as the voices of unity strained under the pressure of violence. She locked eyes with Maria, understanding sparking between them. In that heartbeat, they grasped the enormity of the moment. They had to turn the tide, not just for their cause, but for every voice silenced by fear. Together we fight not just against hate, but toward love, they shouted in unison. The air felt electric, charged with the energy of possibility and resolve. As Sarah stepped forward, ready to reach out, the crowd's roar surged behind her, but uncertainty coiled tight in her gut. Would it be enough? Were they truly ready for this transformation? The tension hung thick. The outcome was still unknown, and in this moment, Sarah could only hope would her vision of unity break through the storm? Amid the charged atmosphere, she felt a ripple of warmth, but it was accompanied by shadows of doubt. What if a fracture happened, and all their efforts crumbled beneath the weight of anger? The question lingered like a fragrant scent on the breeze. What would happen next? The roar of the crowd intensified as if it had a life of its own. They swayed like willow trees in a tempest, a beautiful mess of hope and tension. For Sarah, the moment stretched painfully. She took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling as she fought the knots of anxiety twisting in her stomach. The path forward flickered like a fragile flame. Could they really forge something new here, or was it a smoke-filled dream? Remember why we're here, Sarah shouted, straining against the wall of hostility. This is about understanding, about love, not only our differences, but our common humanity. The words wove through the air, mixing with the tension and uncertainty. It felt like reaching out into the darkness, hoping to find a hand to hold. In that fleeting moment, those around her seemed to respond. Then, a clamorous clash echoed, shattering the fragile connection. Someone threw a water bottle, splashing onto a group of peaceful protesters. A collective gasp traveled through the crowd. Stay calm, Maria yelled, gripping Sarah's arm. We can't give in to fear. With adrenaline pumping, Sarah locked her gaze on the young faces. Their apprehension mirrored her own. This is your chance, she called, her voice rising above the chaos. Don't let anger decide our fate. A boy in the front lined up his courage, his brow furrowed in concentration. He stepped forward, lowering his sign. I don't want to fight. I want to understand. He shouted, his voice trembling but steady. Hope flared in Sarah's heart, a tiny candle in a vast darkness. The older protesters faltered, glancing at one another, uncertainty softening the hardness in their eyes. The boy's bravery ignited a flicker of recognition, a moment that echoed in the hearts around them. More signs began to drop. Voices started merging into a shared plea for dialogue rather than violence. Let us talk. A woman called out from the opposing side, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. Yes. Sarah jumped on the momentum, her chest swelling with pride. Exactly. Let us talk. She urged the group to step forward, creating a bridge across the divide instead of a chasm. Acceptance swelled like a tidal wave, washing over doubts, fears, and animosities. But just as the breakthrough felt tangible, a child's piercing scream rang out from behind the lines, freezing everyone in place. Shadows descended as a group of protesters charged forward, fists raised, unleashing a torrent of vitriol. The crowd surged, fear rippling against the energy of connection. Sarah! Maria shouted, her voice frantic. Heart pounding, Sarah took a step back, eyes darting across the chaos. Would they tear at the fragile threads of understanding woven just moments before? She felt her bubble of anxiety shimmer with uncertainty. Would they stand together, or would it all crumble? Stay together, Maria called, desperation edging her tone. We can do this. In that heartbeat, Sarah met her friend's gaze, their breath mingling in the face of fear. The moment seemed to hang, quieter than before, a hint of tranquility threading through wild emotions. But the question loomed larger than ever: could they truly transform their world from a battleground to a canvas of hope? As the clash grew nearer, tension buzzed in the air like a live wire. Heart racing, Sarah questioned everything. Did they have the strength to keep fighting against the tide? Could love really conquer at such a pivotal moment? Yet, at the edge of desperation, a single thought emerged. Everything worth fighting for is born from turmoil. With one last effort, she raised her voice above the din. We are one community. Let us choose unity. Would this rallying cry be their last stand, or the breakthrough of a lifetime? The crowd inhaled, a collective breath bracing for what would come next. The tide of noise roared back, surging with both fear and hope. Sarah felt her heart race, a wild drumbeat urging her to push forward, to not dissolve into the chaos. She made eye contact with Maria, whose eyes reflected a shared resolve. They had come this far. They weren't about to turn back now. Together, we stand, Sarah shouted, her voice slicing through uncertainty. We are not our divisions, we are this community fighting for justice. The words reverberated off the buildings, washing over the crowd like a wave. To her surprise, the momentum shifted. Faces softened, fists lowered. A ripple of realization spread as people glanced at one another, searching for connection instead of confrontation. Look, a woman yelled from the back. We're all here for the same reasons. One by one, people began to lower their signs, and the tension simmered. A few young protesters exchanged glances, stepping forward with hesitant, yet open hearts. We want to understand too. One teenage boy shouted, his voice shaky but filled with sincerity. Can we talk? Sarah nodded, a spark of hope igniting within her. Yes, let us talk. She felt Maria's reassuring grip on her arm, grounding her even as energy crackled in the AI in that moment. The tension began to dissolve, giving way to curiosity. A well-dressed woman from the opposing side stepped forward, her shoulders easing. I'm tired of fighting, she said, emotion thick in her voice. I want to hear you. I want us to hear each other. Sarah's breath hitched. That's the first step, she called out, her voice strong. We're here for everyone, for each other. Let us break down these walls. A few brave souls ventured into the space between the two groups, forming a tentative bridge. Faces that once wore anger now softened, revealing the pain and fear they shared beneath their bravado. As each side began exchanging stories, the stories of struggle melted into one narrative of hope. Together, we can be stronger, Maria spoke up, stepping beside Sarah. We can create a community that respects everyone. And just like that, A wave of conversation crashed over them, an avalanche of voices, stories, and empathy intertwining, weaving a tapestry of intent. Sarah's heart swelled as she watched people connecting, realizing they were no longer just strangers, but part of something bigger. "This is it," she shouted. "This is how we create change." Shared laughter echoed, blending with tears of relief. Every painful story told was like a stitch, mending wounds previously left open. And through that mending, the walls they built began to crumble. As Sarah glanced at Maria, she saw tears of joy glistening in her friend's eyes. "We did it," Maria whispered, overwhelmed by the miracles unfolding. "We turned chaos into compassion." But just then, a voice from their side called out, "What about those who don't want this change? What if they fight back?" That question pierced Sarah's heart. She knew not everyone would embrace this new unity. But today wasn't just about them. It was about the future they were fighting to build. "We'll face resistance, but we remain unyielding," she declared, her determination ablaze. Heads nodded, resolve strengthened through dialogue. That moment marked a turning point, not just in the protest, but in the hearts of everyone gathered. For the first time, differences didn't matter as much as the common goal of unity and justice. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Sarah knew they had changed not just how they marched together today, but how they live moving forward. Renewed purpose coursed through her, lighting her path ahead. Together, they began to chant, not against but for something, a vision of unity, respect, and equality. "We are one. We are strong. Together, we will carry on." And as their voices merged into a harmonized chorus, Sarah finally believed they could build a world where everyone belonged, where dignity and justice thrived, despite the struggles ahead. The tides of change had begun, and nothing could stifle that burgeoning light. This was merely the beginning. Now more than ever, you need to subscribe to the channel. Don't miss the next exclusive stories that can inspire and transform lives. Hit that like button now to keep the algorithm alive. Leave a comment below about your feelings. This moment deserves to be shared. And please, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this powerful message. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Together, we can spark a change.